So, bienvenidos a todos. Uh, Let me see. Do I have a hand? Like maybe you guys can let me know either in the chat or just by simply raising your hand if you would like me to code switch back and forth, English,
Hmm.
Spanish. Si no les importa, I'll probably do it anyway. All right. And then one last.
English is good for me. I don't know who else is here that is extremely fluent in Spanish besides Abraham.
Well, in any case, the orientation packet is translated, so we will have both information in English and Spanish on the screen once I start sharing the screen. Um, y si hay preguntas, si gustan, una traducción o algo así, if you do need the Spanish translation or vice versa, you're more than welcome to ask. Raise your hand. Y si no les molesta, voy a continuar like I said, I'll be code switching. So um, either way, you'll get at least partial information um, throughout the entire session here. Let me make sure I got my chat just so I can keep up with questions if there are questions. Again, for those of you joining in live on Zoom, you do have access to your to the chat so you can ask questions as I move along there. For anybody watching on the live streams, whether that is here on Instagram Live or you're watching on either YouTube or Facebook Live, you can actually ask your questions by using the chat feature in either platform. So I'll try to be mindful of all of that, pero si no, pues si se me pasa una pregunta, I apologize in advance. Y bueno, bienvenidos everybody here tonight. I hope is specifically here to learn about the Conchas y Café workshop series and the zine. Today officially marks the beginning of our fall 2024 semester. And we say semester because, this is a twice a year program. So we'll go over that. But first, I'd like to introduce at least myself and Abraham. And also, I'd like to give Sam a chance to introduce himself as well a little bit. I figure it's good for all of you to know the people that make up Distill Arts. Distill Arts is, of course, my child. I started Distill Arts about 12 years ago now, in 2012, and as you can see on the screen here, I am the founder, executive director, and also one of the mentors in the programs here. I'm also a poet and artist, mostly practicing poetry and also combination of graphic design and photography. And we have Angelica Silvia Castañeda, who is our program coordinator and also a mentor. And fun fact, she is in fact also a past mentorship program mentee. And then we have our esteemed colega here, Abraham Jaramillo, who is our master teaching artist, one of the mentors in our programs, and also an amazing photographer, artist, and poet too. And Naomi Valdivia is our artistic zine managing editor. She is actually working right now on the newest issue of Artistic Zine. We'll talk a little bit about what Artistic Zine is, but the short of it is that it's a zine specifically highlighting the work of autistic artists. And she is, in fact, a graphic designer and visual artist herself as well. So, as you can see, all of us that make up the team at Distill Arts are artists. We all practice our own thing. And I'd like to give, obviously, Abraham a little chance here to talk a little bit about himself, introduce himself, and maybe talk a little bit about his role here in Conchas y Café.
Oops, I think you went through all my stats. I guess
Yeah.
I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon cards, I guess. So yeah, I'm gonna be one of the main teachers here with you guys, and we're gonna have a lot of cool classes coming, and we're gonna work together with Sam, which is it's there somewhere in your squares. And again, I do photography, art, painting, digital art, as well as designing and poetry as well. And again, I'll be here. Any questions? You have my emails at some point, and Nice to see you all.
Yeah, thank you, Abraham. And Abraham has been with the team for the past 10 years. He's been a day oneer. This year actually marks 10 years of us offering Conchas y Café as a workshop series and a publication. And that's why it's kind of cool that this year in particular, we have actually a special guest teacher that is going to be working with us in the form of the one and only Sam Temblador, who you see on your screen. I'll give Sam a chance to introduce himself a little bit and maybe speak to why he's joining us.
Hey guys, everybody hear me okay? My name is Sam Temblador. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to be a co-instructor here with Abraham in leading the sessions. I'm currently a second year MFA student at Antioch University in Culver City. And well, one of my requirements is to do a kind of like a service project. It's part of the school's philosophy, and it's one of the reasons why I decided to go with Antioch because it's very focused on communal values and social justice. And I met Luis back in the day, maybe like 7 years ago. I was in a communal art space in South Central, my hometown, and we started to get to know each other. And I learned about Distill through him, and I thought it was a great organization. And I kind of had a feeling that I would be back in some way, shape, or form or capacity. And I actually did. I did like um, I was a facilitator back in 2017 for poets, working poets who were coming in, and I was helping them just kind of perfect their craft. And I loved the experience. I later went on to do nonprofit work with Jóvenes Inc. that helps to house homeless youth in LA, unhoused youth in LA. And one of my youth, was also really into writing and had writerly ambitions. So I sent him over to Luis. They got linked up, and he was able to go through one of the programs and get something published. And I still keep in touch with him. So it's just those kinds of cool connections that involve community, marginalized groups, young Latinx youth. I love the synergy with all of that. And just as I'm moving forward, I really want to continue to be a part of community and share whatever I'm learning with the community. And just as I come up, I really want to share my knowledge, my passion, and just help people find their own way to come up as well. So that's why I'm here. Uh, for work, I'm a full-time Spanish interpreter here with the Ventura County Courts. I live in Camarillo. I work there, and just on my free time, I'm writing, trying to get through my program and get a Latinx sci-fi novel written. So one thing that I'm really on right now is indigenous and Latinx futurism. That's kind of the trip that I'm taking, artistically speaking, and been reading a lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy. So trying to just tap into that current. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. So looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam. And yeah, like I said, Sam is going to be one of our co-instructors here. So you'll see him and Abraham teaching the lessons more than me. But of course, I will still be around, and I will also have a cohort once we start breaking up into cohorts. And what I mean by that is, this is a workshop series. So it's not only a class of, creative writing techniques and skills. It's also a actual workshop development type series. But for anybody that isn't really familiar with who we are as an organization, Distill Arts, DSTL Arts, does actually have an acronym in its name. I get that question a lot. The acronym stands for Develop Skills and Transcend Limits Through the Arts. That's one of our kind of core philosophies here. Our mission statement specifically is that we are a nonprofit arts mentorship organization that inspires, teaches, and hires emerging artists from underserved communities. And ultimately, what we mean by that is that we are really here to help artists develop their existing skills and turn that into a potential career. Um, because we recognize that as people of color, especially, we don't often get that opportunity. Our communities don't usually have access to the arts. We're historically underrepresented in the arts, and we want to try to build spaces where people can express themselves in every single way that feels comfortable for them. You can, of course, stay connected on social media. For those of you that already follow us, you might know it's at DSTL Arts. Also, like I did mention earlier, we have Artistic Zine and Artistic Scene because it does specifically showcase the work of autistic artists. We also have a platform dedicated to them and their work in the form of at Artistic Zine, and that's for Facebook and Instagram. Another resource for those of you joining Conchas y Café that you may want to bookmark and also potentially subscribe is our YouTube channel. That would be youtube.com/at DSTL Arts. That's where most of the recordings of our sessions are going to live pretty much indefinitely. And also, for those of you in the program, you would probably want to bookmark the classroom.google.com website, which is where I hope most of you either have or will fully register for the class. It's a space where we actually upload the class handouts and other program information as we go. And then if you feel like it, you can also check out our website, distilarts.org, to find upcoming submission opportunities and also other information about our other programs. Y para contarles un poquito más sobre nosotros, quiero darles un poquito de contexto, un poquito de historia. Distill Arts, like I said earlier, was founded in 2012. And part of the reason why I founded it was because as a person of color, as specifically a Mexican American artist, I did not find many spaces that actually would publish work that is bilingual or that reflects the Latino experience. And I also felt like it was important for us to break down the starving artist mentality within our community. That's why, after a lot of years of working within workforce development, and after a lot of years of really just learning on my own how to do this thing that we call art as a working artist, I just felt like I needed to share that information. I needed to bring everybody that I knew with me on this journey. And I think it's really important for us to consider that here, specifically in Los Angeles County, over 30% of all California based jobs in the arts, in the creative economy, are located in LA County. And it's also really important for us to know that in LA County, 1 out of every 5 jobs is part of our local creative economy. That means 20% of our population is working within the arts and getting paid to create art, whether that be for themselves or for someone else, but they are working in the arts in one capacity or another. And what that does for our local economy is it creates $28 billion a year. That's how much money the arts can actually generate in a community that properly supports it. The one thing though that, at least as a person of color, I'm looking at this and I'm realizing, is disturbing to a degree. Only 59% of our creative workforce identify as white. So the majority, almost 60%. And less than 9% of the people working in the arts in this industry in LA County identify as either Latinx or Black. That's really low. I mean, we're talking about combined Latino and Black. We make up less than 9% of the creative workforce here in LA County. And for perspective, the entire population of LA County is 48% Latinx and is overall 68% Black, Indigenous, or people of color. Meanwhile, only 26% of LA County's population identify as white. And, when I was teaching this information, actually during our orientation for our artist development program, I loved what one of our participants, one of our mentees said: the math just ain't mathing. There's a great disparity in our representation in the arts. That's why organizations like ours exist. And that's why we specifically are working towards teaching people the skills that they need to get published, to potentially launch a career in the arts, and to just simply learn some new skills that they could perhaps use within their current practice. Conchas y Café is a program that, again, started about 10 years ago, and it helped me really develop our foundation, right? So what I mean by that is, when working with our community, I found that it was very useful to kind of focus on these 4 pillars of art. and really of critiquing and critical theory. We focus a lot on the ideas of narrative or story because story is really important. It's what ultimately gives people a sense of purpose in the writing, in the art that they create. And for the audience, it actually helps them feel like there's a value to it, right? We want to make people understand that this is a valuable thing that we are doing. And so story helps with that. Metaphor is also something that's very important. It's what actually makes a story compelling. It could be the thing that makes a very specific type of story universal. You know, my story growing up in San Diego is maybe similar to the, story of a person growing up in South Central. And the reason why we might see those parallels is because the metaphors that we, are able to communicate, those are the things that are going to make people really feel connected to one another. There's a reason why we use the phrase "we build bridges," right? Because that means that you're making connections between two distinct groups of people or individuals. So metaphor is very important. When we talk about design, we're talking about everything related to the visual and also literary approach that you take, which includes editing and revising. Critiquing is very important in that way. And the more we can understand techniques that help us really push forward our message, I think the better and more effective writers and artists we can be. And you'll see a lot of times that we're going to talk about intent, especially when we do our breakout rooms and we have our workshops. Intent is really important. If an audience member does not understand the artist's or author's intent, then you're ultimately not going to be able to make the connections with one another. There's no such thing as good art or bad art in our eyes. And we also do not believe in high art or low art. The person that's creating artwork in a gallery space and the person that is also creating artwork in, say, an alleyway, to us, those are equal. They're all forms of art. The most important thing that we look for is art's effectiveness. Is it telling the story that you want it to tell? And that's what we're here for. That's what we're going to be teaching. ¿Hay alguna pregunta en este momento? Todo se les parece muy claro. Bueno, si no hay pregunta, hay que seguirle, porque hay mucho que repasar. So I won't go into too much detail about our programs, but we do have our Poet Artist Development Program. Cada año abrimos las aplicaciones, and our application period did, in fact, close over the summer. But throughout the course of a year, we work with emerging artists from historically marginalized communities to develop not only their skills and talents, but also a chapbook that we then published in the form of either a poetry book or a monograph if it's visual art. También tenemos a Art Blog Zine. Art Blog Zine is what we call our ongoing love letter to LA. And it also has a podcast that features artists from LA and beyond in conversation with me and Abraham. The new season of Art Block, the podcast, will be launching, I believe, in October, if not in November. But the newest issue of Art Block Zine actually just arrived at my doorsteps today. So you will be seeing the new issue of Art Block Zine going up on our website if it's not already live. And those of you who have submitted to Art Block Zine, you will be getting your contributor copy in the mail in the coming week or so. And then Artistic Zine, like I said, is our annual publication. It's the sister publication to Art Block, and this one specifically highlights the neurodivergent community and their stories. This one is, in fact, open to all artists, as we call them, residing in the US. The difference between Art Block and Artistic is basically that. Art Block Zine is only LA County-based artists. So if you live outside of LA County, I'm sorry, but, it's our love letter to LA. So ahí está. Y ustedes están aquí porque están interesados en Conchas y Café. No solo la comida, sino también la clase. So Conchas y Café is a 15-week series of creative writing workshops that we offer twice a year. Each series will have a specific theme, and each one of them will culminate in the publication of the zine itself, called Conchas y Café. We also offer kind of like a reading. Because of the pandemic, things did obviously shift over to being online only, but we've found, I think people find it fun to do recordings of themselves performing their work. And that's generally been how we've been treating our readings up until this point. However, this year, we are probably going to be doing a special reading at the LA Times Festival of Books. Um, that's not 100% set yet, but it is something that we are aiming for our Conchas y Café family. So we will obviously keep you posted about that when that opportunity arises. Y como dije, esta clase es una serie de 15 sesiones, 15 semanas. Y durante esas 15 semanas vamos a intentar enseñarles diferentes cosas y queremos publicar un nuevo libro cada 15 semanas. That is part of our commitment to you, to publish 2 new zines as part of this particular program year. A very important part of our workshop series, of course, is providing you with constructive criticism on any new work that you create. We will be giving out what we call homework. It's really more of a writing prompt that you're welcome to expand on, or you can create whatever you feel works better for you, given the theme. The theme, speaking of which, for this particular series is Life's Paths, Los Caminos de la Vida. And so, over the course of the next 15 weeks, we encourage you to really think about what that means for you and to create some artwork, poetry, photography, whichever one really speaks to you, to that specific theme, Los Caminos de la Vida. And as part of this series, we are expecting a lot of our participants because it is somewhat interactive. And if you really want to get the most out of it, I think that it's really the best way for us to build our community, as Sam said. So we do expect you to actively participate in the creating, editing, and submission of your work. It should all be original work, and we also do not publish work that uses AI, artificial intelligence, especially the generative AI type. So I want to make that very clear. We do not accept work that is using generative AI at this time because of some of the ethics around it. But we do expect you to come up with your own creations, which we know that you are more than capable of doing. You should also be attending all the lessons and workshop sessions. It's very important that you actively participate in this particular series because it's a very crucial part of the development of the zine. If you can't make it, we ask that you commit to watching the lesson recordings. And again, we offer it as not just a recorded session on YouTube, but we also live stream it if in case you're not able to watch through Zoom because of technical difficulties or whatever the case might be. In the case of the workshop sessions, we expect you to provide genuine constructive criticism on any of the work that is submitted to you by your fellow program participants. Sus compañeros really do depend on that to improve upon their work, and they will reciprocate if you do that for them. So do keep that in mind. You know, there is kind of like a sort of conversation element that happens here in our workshops, which might mean that you could be spending up to 3 hours outside of just the lessons here, working on your writing and on the writing of others. That's why we ask that you dedicate the appropriate amount of time and effort to live up to these expectations. And of course, it's very, very important that we provide always a safe learning environment for everyone, free of judgment, bias, and prejudice. We do have a new slide in this particular packet, so we'll go over that a little bit more, pero let me just, say now that we really do care about you, and we really want you to always feel like you have a safe space here with us. So if you feel the need to walk away because you feel like one of your emotions is being activated, you're more than welcome to do that. You can step away, get a drink, take a couple of breaths. If it's, say a topic that we're covering that you feel, might affect you in a particular way, you can always let us know, and we can try and make accommodations for you. The same goes with other types of accommodations. Of course, Zoom does have live captions. So you can always use the caption feature in Zoom. And for our recordings, I try my best to make sure that they all go up with captions as well. But all of that said, we just really trust that you will actively and openly communicate with us at all times. So we can definitely support you throughout the program and so that you can also support others throughout the program year as well. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Any questions so far or comments? I am more than open to hearing your comments.
I just want to say that as far as giving feedback, it might feel like a drag at first. It might not. I just want to say that there's always something to be gained from giving others feedback. Both for yourself, it's beneficial to develop your critical thinking, which is key to developing as a writer and a poet, and also for the good that it does for your compañeros in the classroom. It's just, there's synergy. It helps create synergy. It's good for you and it's good for the group. Just food for thought.
Thank you.
Excellently said, Sam. And so, to that, right, if you're not always comfortable with giving feedback, if you feel like maybe you're a little rusty, we will next week offer a session where we're going to cover some tips for how to give feedback. Además, aquí en este paquete también se incluyen más tips. So, you do have a couple of different resources that are coming up to help you with giving people feedback on their art, on their writing, etc. But next week, for sure, we will have a session that's going to be dedicated to giving feedback and to kind of getting used to the cohort type of deal. That's why here, if you notice on the schedule, our first official lesson will begin on the 17th of September. And you'll notice that we have also here a homework due date. This is really designed to give not only yourself, but also other people in your cohorts an opportunity to read their writing, to read your writing, or to review your artwork and give you feedback in preparation for the workshopping session. So as you can see, the dates will alternate. 1 week will be a creative writing lesson. The following week will be a writing workshop session. También este año, si se dan cuenta, van a tener menos sesiones de lecciones, right? So we're actually going to be kind of reducing the number of sessions that are going to be dedicated specifically to workshopping in order to also give you, as part of the series, writing sessions. So on October 29th and on the 10th of December, this particular year, we're experimenting with this. We're going to have basically an open session. You can log on Zoom. You can share ideas with other people. You can use the time to get caught up on your homework if you need to get caught up on the quote unquote homework. We're trying to give you really every opportunity to just develop your craft. That's really the point of these writing sessions. They're going to be really to dedicate to your writing and to just kicking around ideas with other people. They're not going to be for workshopping. These dates that you see listed here under workshop session, those are really going to be dedicated to breaking down your writing and helping you find ways to improve it. Also, it's very, very important that you register to vote for those of you that do have that. Voting is going to take place on the 5th of November. So that day we will not have class for those of you that might prefer voting in person. If you are voting by mail, you don't have to worry about it. But regardless, no class will take place on election day. So November 5th, put that on your calendar now. There will be no class. I know, right? It is already September. Crazy. And yes, there is a class session on the 10th. So a week from today, that will be the session that we go over how to give feedback. It'll be more of like a little training, and we're going to give you an opportunity to use the breakout room system, if in case you're not familiar with how that works in Zoom. But yes, there will be a class next week on the 10th. Thank you for asking the questions. Yes, vote Abraham 2024. So, Okay, so like I said, I won't go in depth on this too much, but the schedule is there for your reference. And I'm assuming that those of you that logged on now are already able to use Google Classroom, but if in case you haven't had the opportunity to do so, again, classroom.google.com, it's free. You do not have to have a Google-based email, so you don't have to use Gmail. You can use Hotmail, you can use Yahoo Mail, you can use iCloud, whichever email address you use to register for the class, that's the email address that will give you access to Google Workspace, including Google Docs and Google Drive. These are going to be very useful tools for sharing your writing or your artwork if you're creating visual art as part of this series. The nice thing about Google Docs is that it's almost identical to Microsoft Word if you're more familiar with Microsoft Word. You can still use a lot of the shortcut keys, and the nice thing about that as well is that Google Drive, because it's cloud-based, it allows you to create a document on Google Docs, and you can work on it either on a tablet, you can work on it on a smartphone, or on a computer. You have multiple ways of accessing your work and accessing the work of others on the go. And any changes that you make on your Google Doc, they will automatically save in Google Drive. So they will always be located in a centralized location for you, along with a history of the edits. So we can go into that a little bit more in depth next week, just to give you all like a little bit of practice using it. But if not, if you feel like you want to already start learning how to use it, I recommend that you actually go to Google and type in Google Workspace or Google Docs tutorials, and you can find a lot already on YouTube as well as on Google's dedicated pages. If anybody has any difficulties with that, please do email me. It's luis@dstlarts.org. If you email me, I can hopefully be able to help you virtually. Otherwise, if you have other connectivity issues, you can let me know. We do have a handful, a small handful, but we do have a couple of tablets that we can loan out for you during the class period. So that is a service that we offer, but only if you're fully enrolled. Any questions so far? All right. We're just like Radio Shack now, Abraham. Well, we won't go out of business like them, I'll tell you that. Yeah, we're more like Circuit City. Just kidding. All right. So I did mention it earlier, but this year we do have a actual formalized code of conduct. For the past 10 years, we've all kind of lived by this. I don't think we've ever had any major problems. But just to be, I think, more transparent and to be very clear about our expectations of everyone, we are now putting on paper a code of conduct. Este código de conducta está aquí también en español. Y pues, es algo que esperamos que todos sigan, ¿verdad? As you can see here, it's ultimately, just follow the golden rule. Treat people the way that you want to be treated. That's always been kind of our mantra here. But I think it's also worth saying that aside from treating others the way that you want to be treated while you're in our workshops, also be aware of your implicit biases and positions of privilege. All of us have it. Doesn't matter who you are. We all have implicit biases. We all have privilege. And it's really useful for us to be self-aware of those things so that we can either work to reduce our implicit biases, and so that we can understand that when we are coming from a place of privilege, in our conversations with people, we can sometimes affect them in a negative way. So it's very useful and very important that we understand the things that we have that are going to influence the way that we interpret things. It's okay, I think, to discuss those things, and it's okay for us to acknowledge them. And we want to always do so in a way that respects the other person. That's why we always tell people everybody has a story to tell. And it doesn't matter whether or not you've gone to school. Your ability to tell your story is not determined by a formal education. I have, I would say, the unfortunate privilege of going through an MFA program. I hated it. I felt like I was in a location, in a school that just did not support me as an artist. But ultimately, I have that, right? And it's not something that everybody has. And I recognize that. And I can tell you right now that you do not need an MFA if you want to be a writer. You do not even need to have a college education. You can be an effective writer, an effective communicator by reading and just practicing your writing. That's really all you need in life to become a great writer. And it's very valuable that we also recognize and put an actual value on people's lived experiences. A lot of people learn through living. My dad is a genius. My dad is a mathematical wizard. I don't know how he does it, especially because he was only able to go to school for 2 years out of his life growing up in Mexico. And to me, that's a perfect example of the fact that we don't have to have that formal education in order to be geniuses in something. So, again, put value in people's lived experiences and don't even think about, education level, attainment, all of that stuff, because it really does not have any impact on your ability to tell a story. We also do not believe in censorship. So, as kind of like, I guess, an early warning, you know, our class can get deep and our classes can sometimes explore topics that make people uncomfortable. That's okay. I don't think that it's a problem for people to be, challenged in their beliefs, because again, we need to remember that we all have implicit biases and we need to work to reduce them. That's why when we hear and learn from each other, we become stronger and better people, better communicators. But that being said, we also do not accept, publish, or condone any form of hate speech, whether it's overt or implied. So, if your work comes across as deliberately espousing intolerance, violence, or discrimination against anybody, whether it be based on race, ethnicity, cultural or religious background, socioeconomic class, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, immigration status, or political beliefs, all of those things, if we understand something to be anti any of those things, then we will likely not allow you to continue in the class. Again, we don't believe in censorship. You can cuss all you want. You can touch on taboo topics if that's what you feel is important as part of your story. Just again, we do not condone any form of hate speech or writing or art that ultimately tries to inflict some form of violence on another person. And just like with any workplace, all forms of harassment will not be tolerated, which includes threats of violence, unsolicited sexual advances or lewd acts, forms of quid pro quo, or abuses of people's trust and privacy. This is, going to give you access to people's personal information to a certain degree, personal email addresses and things like that. If you're fully enrolled in the program, we expect you to treat that with the utmost respect. And if any person is found to, I don't know, be violating these code of conducts, I guess would be the best word, we will launch an investigation, and we will ask that if you're a part of the investigation, you follow our instructions during the investigation period. If necessary, we will actually hire a third-party investigator to help with that investigation. And if anybody is found to be violating this code of conduct, we will remove them from the class, and they will be basically forever, barred from any activities that we put on. Also, if you feel like there has been a violation, we ask that you immediately notify your mentor, whether that be me, Abraham, or Sam, or all three of us. You can let all three of us know. And also our board of directors. Email them at board@distillarts.org. So that way we have a very, very kind of like a paper trail so that we can follow up and make informed decisions about people's removal from the program. Any questions there? Nice. I like your quote there. in the chat. All right. So si no hay preguntas aquí sobre el código de conducto, we'll continue on. We also have an attendance policy that we ask that people follow. Again, attendance is very, very important. So, it's central to the development of your writing as a cohort. So we ask that if you're going to be absent and you know you're going to be absent, that you please let us know at minimum 24 hours before the expected absence. If we notice that it becomes excessive, it may result in you being dropped from the program. And also, if you are, absent, like let's say you feel sick one day and you weren't anticipating that, obviously let us know as soon as you can. We would appreciate that. But if you have 3 consecutive unexcused absences, we will drop you from the program. We'll just, remove you from the class. We won't bar you from being able to have access to the handouts and that kind of thing, but we just won't expect you to share work with your classmates, and your classmates will also be told to not send you work for review. Yes, keep it professional and give it your beast. Thank you, Abraham. So sí, como dije, el asistir a la clase es muy importante y por eso pedimos que si anticipan a una ausencia, por favor, denos saber al mínimo 24 horas antes de la ausencia. Y si tienen 3 ausencias consecutivas sin avisar, eso sí resultará en el dar debajo de su inscripción en la clase. All right. Like I said, we're going to go in more in depth on giving constructive criticism next week, but just kind of like as a primer, so that way or have at least an expectation of what we mean by constructive criticism. It's really you reviewing a person's work and telling them why, right? You want to tell them why you like it, if you like it. If you feel like there is something that is, I don't know, maybe not connecting with you, that's okay. We don't critique the content, as in we don't make any judgments about the content that is being written or explored. The subject matter is not as important as its effectiveness in its storytelling. Again, we want to respect an artist's ideas and intentions. And when we look at a work of art, we want to really think about, what it is doing in terms of, its design and the use of the metaphors, in the way that it's presenting its intentions. Those are the things that we're looking for. So what you could do is you could maybe refer to techniques or phrases or moments that are really working for you. And to make it constructive so that people can build on it, you may want to give them at least one example of something that could maybe be enhanced, something that can maybe be looked at in a different way. Or you can offer, a suggestion for maybe a small word change or something like that. Those are the kinds of things that work really well for giving constructive criticism. Also, when it comes to receiving it, this might make people a little nervous, which is understandable. But remember that it's not about you. Criticism is not a personal thing. It's a transactional thing, right? You give constructive criticism in order to help people improve their craft. They are giving it to you so that you can improve your craft. One way that you can do so is by just simply listening, right? Be attentive and engaged and proactively listen. If you have questions about what people are saying, ask, right? If a reader is saying something to you about, like something doesn't feel right or something like that, well, you can always ask them the why. Why do you think that is, right? And what can I do to tell my story better? Those are the ways in which we can collaborate and really develop the thing that we call our poetry and writing. We do tend to focus a lot on poetry when it comes to our classes. And so if you continue in the packet, you'll see here that we have some shared technical vocabulary that we tend to use a lot. Todas estas palabras que ven aquí de vocabulario sí están traducidas junto con su definición en las páginas que siguen. But if you hear us say something like simile, and you're not really familiar with it, or maybe it's been a long time since you last heard it, you can always reference this packet and you can find a simplified definition that I think, at least from my perspective, helps understand some of these concepts a little bit better. Either way, some of these concepts, like enjambment, we will probably break down for you in one of our lessons. I mean, if you're in my cohort, you'll probably hear me talk about enjambment a lot because it's one of my favorite tools for poetry. Pero sin embargo, todos estos, todas estas técnicas, este vocabulario es semi-universal. You can use some of these things not just in literature, but you can use it also in visual art. So if you feel compelled to create visual art for any of the assignments that we give, you are welcome to do so. And you could probably still use some of these vocabulary words to talk about it. What's that, Abraham? You suggest getting a list going, for we'll be introducing many along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, just have your own list so you start getting ideas of the terminology that we'll be using or the new concepts that we'll be bringing. It'd be cool to have your own list.
Yeah.
Reference sake.
Yeah, it's always good to take notes. I like to personally, when I'm in meetings and things like that, I do like to have a notebook available to me so I can handwrite my notes because that works for me. If you're on a device that allows you the screen space to have two windows open, you can always have a second window open with an app that allows you to take notes. Do what works best for you. Plus, keep in mind, a lot of our lessons will be recorded and also uploaded to YouTube so you can reference them later. Así que tienen amplias oportunidades para aprender de diferentes maneras. So, any questions so far? ¿Alguna duda? Any concerns? All right. So again, I just want to reiterate, if you're going to be absent from the program, from a session or from maybe a couple of sessions, let us know in advance. Also, contact us if you have any questions or concerns about the program itself, right? If you have maybe trouble downloading a handout, or if there's, a technical thing related to Google Classroom, Workspace, or Zoom that I can help you with, please do email us. All of us are available to help you by email. I am the one that works full-time through DSTL Arts, so I can help you probably the soonest. So I recommend that you email me first. Also, it doesn't happen that often, but sometimes there are moments where maybe you're talking about your participation in the workshops and an outside organization or another person in our community asks you questions and you don't have all of the answers, or maybe they want to invite you to talk about our programs a little bit more, do contact us. It's always better to ask questions and be prepared with information directly from us. Especially if you're going to be representing our organization out there in the community. And as a representative of our organization in our community, we also ask that you don't misrepresent our programs in a way that, doesn't reflect our values or our mission. So again, really do just honestly talk to us. We're not that scary, I swear. When in doubt, just ask for clarification. That's kind of always going to be the thing that we come back to. I also want to let you know that because a lot of us do practice art outside of DSTL Arts, like Abraham as a photographer, for example, if you need portraits or if you are looking to buy a print or something like that, do kind of understand that we don't do those things for free outside of DSTL Arts. We do have a going rate for each one of us, whether that's me, Angie, or Abraham, or even Naomi. We charge a fee that is reflective of the work that we do. So if you're looking for design services or photo services, we are available for that, but understand again that it wouldn't be for free unless if it's something specifically related to DSTL Arts, the workshops that we teach, or the mentorship program that we have. So again, that's something that's important. I don't want my staff to be taken advantage of, is what it really comes down to. Also, we do not accept unsolicited manuscripts from people. I do get asked every now and then from writers that are already, working within the community and they have their manuscript if it can be published through Distill Arts. That's not how our programs work. It's not how our funding comes through. I can recommend services or I can recommend other programs that might offer that. So if at any time you have a friend or a family member that's like, hey, I want to be published too, you can always refer them to me and I can then give them some other referrals outside of Distill Arts. Or they can always join our programs and just learn the way that you do. So yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, we can only handle work that has to do with our programs. Yeah. So for the most part, that is, our limitations in terms of time. All right. Y con eso, I think we are down to the very end. Yeah. So ahí tienen, welcome to the Arts Fam. On social media, periodically you'll see us using the hashtag ArtsFam to talk about our programs and those of you who are actively participating in them. And ultimately, once you're part of the Arts Fam, you're Arts Fam for life. Some of you who are already logged on will know. We really do try to support you for as long as you want us to be there in your corner. And you can always reach out to us directly using the email addresses that you see here on the screen. It's always going to be basically our first name at distillarts.org. And again, you can follow us on social media using at DSTL Arts. To answer Tori's question, does DSTL publish manuscripts during other times in the year? Yes. Yeah. Excuse me. We do. We publish actually several times throughout the year, depending on the publication. So, Art Block Zine once a year, Artistic Zine once a year, Conchas y Café twice a year. We also have our poetry and art chapbooks that are published through the Poet Artist Development Program. Those kind of happen, I want to say, about twice a year. And those are individual books. So we'll have like maybe 3 published at a time, 3 or 4, just sort of depending on the individual artists who are in our Poet Artist Development Program. But yes, we do publish manuscripts throughout the year. I hope that answers your question, Tori. And then if we have open calls for submission, we'll let you know. We'll usually post it on our social media channels. Plus, those of you that are in Conchas y Café, you will also get those invites through the Google Classroom. So, yeah, we give you a little bit of priority access. Yeah, you can see our catalog on our website for sure. Thank you, Abraham. And then last but not least, just as kind of like a final acknowledgement, we do ask that you print out this last page. Aquí lo tenemos en inglés y en español. Es básicamente certificando que han participado en la orientación, and it is also a media release. Here you'll see some of the basic language for our media release. Basically, by participating in our programs, you are acknowledging that you may or may not appear in video, photo, or audio. And those things may be uploaded to different platforms, including our social media accounts, YouTube, and potential uses in what's called a fact book about Distill Arts. Really, that just comes down to promotional materials. We don't charge for accessing our social media, our YouTube channel, none of that stuff. And because we don't make money off of that, we unfortunately aren't able to provide you with monetary compensation either. But you will have obviously, access to a lot of different learning opportunities through our programs, as well as the larger community will have access as well. So just as an acknowledgement, especially that you will follow our code of conduct and attendance policy as outlined here, we ask that you do print out this last page, sign it, date it, and you can email it back to me or Abraham or Sam. All right. And then as far as the dates of the workshops go, again, I'll go back to our calendar. We will have, after next week, we will start assigning cohorts. So you will get an email, a separate email directly from me, indicating who's in your cohorts and also which of our staff is going to be your cohort mentor, your maestro de cohorte. So that's something to expect from us after, I think it's week 3. Sorry, after week 2, so that you go into week 3, the first session, kind of knowing where you will be, who's going to be your assigned mentor. So, pero aquí tienen las fechas por si ya los quieren programar en sus calendarios, en sus agendas. And again, this year we're trying something new with the dedicated writing sessions. And also, if you have not yet, register to vote. And keep in mind that we will not have class on election day this time around. Yes, answering the question from the chat, Julie, should we upload this form to Google Docs? Yeah, you can upload the form to Google Docs and you can share it that way. And you're welcome for all of the publishing and encouragement. We definitely appreciate your stories and poetry. You're a fantastic writer, Julie, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Wow. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. So, any other questions or comments? For those of you returning, would you like to add anything that I might have forgotten to mention?
Bring your own cafe.
Yes.
Even though it's Conchas y Café, bring your own cafe.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not until we're able to go back with a physical location, we won't be able to provide the Conchas and Café, which we used to. And I do hope to do that again soon. That's something that's kind of like in the background in the works, pero pues ahí verán cuando eso pasa. One day we'll have a fancy coffee machine. Yes. Here to that. All right. So I'm sorry.
I want one too.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Any final thoughts?
Starbucks, if you're listening.
La Monarca, if you're listening. So River wants to share an ASL right sign for vote since we won't have class on voting day. Oh, but can't find the image fast enough. Well, you can always share the image with us on Google Classroom. Of course, like I said, for those of you that are already fully enrolled on Google Classroom, you can use the stream to share upcoming opportunities, questions that you think might benefit the entire group. That is, of course, a resource for you as well. So if there are no further questions, then I think we'll go ahead and call it a night. I appreciate all of you for joining us on Orientation Day. Again, this is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Google Classroom. For anyone who missed it, you are able to watch it. And also you'll be able to download the orientation packet. And I do ask that those of you that do fully enroll, please complete the last page on the orientation packet, that little certification page. I would greatly appreciate it. Email it to me within the next 2 weeks. And after that, we'll continue on in the journey of life's paths, los caminos de la vida. If in case you're interested and would like to see some of the previous participants perform their work, including our one and only Julie Rico, you can actually check that out on our YouTube channel now. A little snippet was uploaded over the weekend to our social media, so you can always go check that out on socials. But again, you can check out the whole thing, the full performances on our YouTube channel now, which it does include Elena. So yeah, go check that out. And I
what about the
believe,
ones for the LA Transit, the new?
yeah, that
that
one,
one?
that one's still in the works. Yeah, I'm only human, Dr. Rosie. I'm
I
sorry,
no, I hear you. It's
but
just
it will
all so
happen.
exciting. It's just all so exciting. That's all.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a compliment to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dr. Rosie. So I believe with that, we'll go ahead and call it a night. Thank you again, everybody. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Again, next Tuesday, 6:30. I will share the Zoom link again just before the class, and it will be a session dedicated to giving you some tips on how to analyze poetry and critique poetry. So we'll be doing a little bit more interactive stuff next time around. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Enjoy your evening. Stay cool.
We'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.